morning. After reviewing the film and the game tape, I was really pleased with the effort and determination. And I think the resiliency of our team, making critical plays at the right time on both sides of the ball in the second half to secure a win, using every bit of clock to do it. Fun environment in front of a sellout crowd, with a lot of energy in the stadium, and just a great win for our team. Hopefully now we'll work to carry that momentum, the heart, the way the team played, with continued improvement in our execution into our game against San Jose State. I've seen 3 games on San Jose so far, and I have seen steady improvement through their last game against Colorado State. I think their identity is becoming clearer. And again, I think they had a fairly significant breakthrough after not having a road win for quite a while, and making that happen with Colorado State. So with that, I'll take whatever questions anyone might have going forward.
You said that you and the offensive staff over the weekend would look at the quarterbacks. What did you see, and what are your plans for Saturday as far as a starter?
I'm not ready to name a starter yet. Most likely won't do so until the end of the week. Both quarterbacks were, I think, effective, and Jake continues to grow and mature, and I think throws the ball extremely well. And I think he's going to be a fantastic quarterback. When Riley came in, the analogy I used was much like our game against Texas. You're defending a completely different style of quarterback with mobility and with some quarterback run options. And it took Utah State a while to adjust to that. How best we'll use our quarterbacks will remain to be seen, and probably won't give you an answer, and probably won't announce a starting quarterback, at least publicly, until maybe Thursday.
Broncos, some players were pretty candid after that game about feeling like they played harder and things were going differently after Riley came in. Is that a disappointment to hear in any way, that they were playing harder than they were the first 2.5 quarters?
Well, I don't think they did play harder, nor did I see it on film. I think that they were supportive of any player out there that they saw trying as hard as they could. Quarterback position is one, and the way Riley plays it when he starts running the football, things like that. You're talking about a guy that runs down on scout kickoff team in practice, etc. And so I think that was just something they were excited about. I don't think they support one any more than the other, nor should they. We have 2 really good quarterbacks, and we won a lot of football games with Jake as well. And so maybe the momentum, maybe the plays we were making on both sides of the ball maybe started alluding to that, but I wouldn't read too much into whatever other comments were made.
Coach, could you talk about some of the strengths you've seen in San Jose State and maybe some things you can take advantage of?
Yeah, again, as most of you know, I've only seen their offense so far. I don't see their defense in at least till Tuesday, sometimes Wednesday, but I really like, they have a nice running back. Again, I'm better with jersey numbers and names, but number 9, I'm very impressed with. And the quarterback accuracy, they started playing 2 quarterbacks earlier in the year. They've settled a little bit more on number 7. So throwing and catching the ball pretty well, but number 9 at running back is the one that jumps right out to you. And like most teams, you hope to turn on the film and say, boy, that's going to be an easier opponent. And after watching San Jose, I didn't, and our defensive staff doesn't think that. They're skilled and capable. Again, I haven't seen their defense yet, so I can't comment. Number 9 is also a punt returner and kick returner as well. And so from a personnel standpoint, and then they're well coached, as it seems like everyone that we play is.
Last year at the start of the season, you had Riley and Jake. Do you see that happening in the future this year?
I don't think it's ideal. I'm not ruling out playing both quarterbacks, but hard to get in a rhythm and a routine, especially for alternating series, things like that. There's the potential where a game can come out just like it did against Utah State, where maybe at some point we feel like just a given quarterback at that time is going to give us a lift, and we make a transition but I wouldn't see it going series by series. I wouldn't see it going quarter by quarter. I wouldn't see it going like that. I think it would be, we name a starter, we go for a while, and hopefully that's working well, and if not, and if for some reason they've adjusted to that style, then we might be able to complement it and finish with another.
Jake's always been thrust in the forefront since he's been here. Would it be a positive, or could he have any positives by sitting and watching?
Sure, any especially a young quarterback, and one of the main reasons, if you remember a year ago, that we started Riley, if not the main reason, was Riley's poise, experience, and leadership. And Jake was a true freshman. Riley started the first 4 games, and a lot of that had to do with what you just said. To be BYU's quarterback as a true freshman is a lot. To live in this community as BYU's quarterback is a lot. And so certainly being able to step back or get a breather or regroup, so to speak, that might have an effect. But watching someone that plays the position and plays it really well is always helpful. And that's, I think, a pretty universal term. Whether we choose to do that now with Jake or not, we'll see.
Coach, you said you wouldn't name a starter until Thursday or later. Does that mean you won't decide on a starter? And is it possible that you would decide now and divvy out the reps in practice accordingly?
It's possible, but the reps might start being different based on which way our quarterback coach and Coach Billman and offensive coordinator is kind of leaning, and especially his game plan versus San Jose starts to get set which way it might go. And so that could happen prior to Thursday, but then the volume of work between Monday and Thursday would kind of then maybe solidify how that would come out.
And then you mentioned you would talk to players even about kind of maybe what they thought. Have you done that yet?
No, and that's when I visited about that. To me, that's just to make it clear that this won't be really by committee or anything else. It'll just simply be when we're talking to players, is to make sure they trust my decision, they trust what I'll do, and then they support whomever. And so it wasn't necessarily by asking them to vote, so to speak. It was more by, once a decision is made, make sure they unify and get behind whomever it is.
Then this will be your 4th straight home game. Have you ever had such a schedule as a coach? And do you think maybe there could be some fan fatigue setting in with this, trying for another sellout with 4 straight home games?
Well, after the last game, I'm still a little fatigued. I don't know if anyone else is, but it's a late game. I don't know how that will affect it, but I think we're gaining momentum, and I think that we're playing better football each week, and I think our fans support us, and so I think that they're seeing exciting games, and with the exception of 1 week, games that are going right down to the very end, and if they're interested in that, it'd be a good one to show up for, I think. In answer to the first part, I've never remember having 4 home games in a row, so first time.
Coach, it seemed like one thing coaches, fans liked about the old conference situation was the start of game times, the game day. Is that something when the new alignment came up, you just had to resign yourself that kickoffs gives you a different?
I resigned myself to it, but again, part of the benefit of going independent was exposure, and I've used the statistic just as it was passed on to me, and you can verify it, but the statistic that was passed on to me is 3 times the amount of people saw our game against Central Florida and saw our game against the University of Utah, simply because it was Friday night. And again, if part of the reason to go independent is for more people to see our team play, and hopefully we're playing well, then you'd have to say that that's helpful. And so this change of game time or playing Friday nights, etc., if that continues, and that allows more and more people to see BYU win, then that's a good thing, even though it's unconventional in terms of time.
I guess second thing, how often is it into a season until you really start to understand who an opponent is? Is that a...
Yeah, interesting, because I'm being asked right now to vote in the polls, and I'm finding that very difficult. I'm basically voting for teams that are undefeated, and if they win, they move up. If they lose a game, they move down and are passed by another undefeated team. And so we're going in, to game number 6. It's still very difficult to say who is who, and not having seen all the matchups necessary to play. And about game 10, probably you'll have a great idea, but I don't consider myself a great predictor, but even now when I look at what I'm asked to do in terms of the rankings, I'm finding it very difficult because it's just early still, even though it's halfway through the season almost. I'm not sure how you can tell.
Coach, could you talk about the play of the wide receivers and how that compares to last season?
Hard to say in terms of comparing the last season, other than the number of drops is less. I'm certain of that. And so we're catching the ball more consistently. I think Cody Hoffman has kind of moved his game forward from where it was in terms of not only volume of plays that he's making, but consistency. Ross Oppo obviously wasn't with us last year, so you get some sprinkling of him making some nice plays. McKay Jacobson, I think, is playing at a higher level than a year ago. Then you throw J.D. Falslick in there as kind of the consistent, just maybe a first down kind of getter, no matter what it takes. And so I would say in general they're playing at a higher level, but still with room to improve.
Coach, just a little bit more about Riley. People that don't know him, talk about his personality and what he's like as a person.
Riley is a fierce competitor. Riley is someone I think that's been told he can't do things all of his life, either too short or not the typical quarterback type or whatever other thing. And he started his career not highly recruited, went to Utah State, transferred to BYU, and even has been told here, and even I have an opinion that he's not the prototypical BYU quarterback. And so I think he uses that as a motivator, but he has a very strong self-concept, and he just is a football player and doesn't consider himself a quarterback only. In the drills, he's been covering punts, like I said. He does that for us on game day, where he's one of our gunners on the punt team, and he's more of a football player than a quarterback only. And I think that's one of the things that is his strength, is that he is such a fierce competitor, but sees himself just more maybe as a football player / quarterback than maybe quarterback / football player. You have to ask him, but it's kind of a combination of both.
Coach, the Utah State running game, very good.
Yeah.
Had a very good game. Concerned with the way the defense wasn't able to give up some big plays and had some.
The two big plays were really my biggest concern. I really liked the way the defense played in terms of the majority of the game, but obviously the opening play that went for 80-something yards, and there was a play later in the game went for 53 or 56, so 100 and something yards on two plays. I love the way they responded after giving up the second big play and how they finished the game. But hate to see big plays anytime. And so, but Utah State, I think, is a very good offense. I like their scheme. I like their quarterback. I like their running game. I like the deception they use. And without the two big running plays, I would have really loved how we played. That would have been one less score, and that's about what I could kind of projected going into it. So, but they're good.
You talked after the game about how you liked how they were battered and bruised, but scrapped their way to a win. Is that the identity of this team? Is that what's developing?
It kind of looks like that so far. If you had to put the season together and say, if we're going to win, how are we going to do it? It seems like we might be coming from behind, and we might be stumbling or reaching for the goal line, or causing the quarterback to fumble the ball, or knocking down a Hail Mary pass or something like that. I mean, nothing's come easy yet, and I'm not sure it will for this particular team. We'll see.
Is that your type of team? Is this the type you like to have players like that?
I love that game on Saturday, certainly because of the outcome. I'm not sure I would have loved it without, but both those teams, and I tried to express that to Gary afterwards. I mean, that was a very, very good college football game because both those teams were trying really hard.